All right. So I haven't done any coverage on Clearpool for a while, but we're going to get into some Clearpool, and that's what it is. Ticker symbol is Cpool. Now, for all you guys that are new to Clearpool, I just want to state this. It is tokenization, a DeFi lending, a capital markets ecosystem. Now, I stated this before. I got to state again for the newcomers. We're always trying to chase some of the low market cap cryptos. Now, back in 2021, when I first found out about Clearpool, I literally watched it go to public release from like roughly 38, 40 cents. And then in 2.5 weeks, went to like $2.47. What happens at the height of this next bull market? Let's take you to what is going on recently with Clearpool. How about that? So I'm going to share this straight from CoinGecko once again. I will come out of the frame because I want to put some emphasis on this instead of my mug. And here we go. So as you can see right here, a nice, healthy chart. On the 30-day chart, Clearpool's been doing some things. Up 71%, as you can see right here. 14-day chart up 25%, 7-day 16%, 24-hour chart up 32%. So bottom line is this. What the heck is this Clearpool thing and what is it doing? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit more. So for one, you do see here that it has a current market cap of 12,604,346 according to the data provided from CoinGecko. You do see that it has a total supply of 1 billion Cpool tokens and a max supply that also matches that. You do see that there's 447,747,749 in the circulating supply, so close to about roughly 47 to 50% in circulation. They of course are originally built on ETH, but they do have that bridge to Polygon, and I think some other ones I saw recently. And let's take you to, for instance, what's going on with Cpool. So for one, let me come back into the frame. Cpool, a new era of on-chain credit markets. Now, this was recent. This was published yesterday, the 21st, and I thought it would take you to this because it's a nice little write-up. And if anything, I'm not going to get into all the things about it and so on, but I do want to get into some of this. So they do have this thing for Medium. And for some of you newcomers, you kind of want some of the new stuff, new info. So for one, like it says, the traditional finance credit markets encompassing trillions of dollars, yes, true, are gradually embracing blockchain tech, signaling a potential systemic shift towards on-chain debt and credit origination. We talk about, for instance, Ripple's XRP. Could Ripple take on the world's debt or certain countries? You name it. Crazy stuff. But you got to keep in mind that with a proven track record, a commitment to innovation, and a well-established network of institutional users, Clearpool is uniquely equipped to seize the opportunities presented by this transformative trend. And this is one thing that's always attracted me to Clearpool. They, of course, have this vision for the future of credit. So for one, if you're not aware of their particular vision, it's bold, it's ambitious. They want to establish themselves as the premier, and this is a pretty big statement, destination for on-chain primary and secondary credit trading. That's bold, especially based on, how long they've been around and their market cap, right? They want to eliminate, as in Clearpool, the need for excessive collateral. We're always talking about, collateral, and especially when it comes to the traditional finance markets. I mean, how many times have you applied for a loan and, you're looking at that loan officer in the face and they're like, well, do you have any collateral, right? Clearpool, on the other hand, empowers borrowers to access capital more freely. And that's one thing that's always, again, stood out for me in regards to Clearpool, because all the things that they got going on for it just simply made sense. If you go back to some of the early borrowers on their platform and so on, one thing that always stood out for me was this empowers VCs, venture capitalists and so on, to be able to raise capital not only quickly but effectively, and also benefiting the token holders that hold, for instance, Cpool. It says, for instance, they simultaneously provide lenders with attractive risk-adjusted yields. They solve over-collateralized conundrum. And look at this for a second, because we were talking about over-collateralization. It has been a defining feature of DeFi lending, but it does come at a cost. Yeah, no kidding. Borrowers were required to put up a higher collateral than the loan itself. Lenders' interest rates often hovered at 1 to 3% per annum. This efficiency restricts capital flow limits borrowers' potential. This is where Clearpool really stands out. Listen to this for a second. Clearpool's uncollateralized credit model breaks free from these constraints by carefully assessing borrower creditworthiness. Clearpool grants access to capital without the burden of excessive collateral. Think about that for a second. This approach not only benefits borrowers, but also opens up new opportunities for lenders to earn competitive returns. That in itself, in my opinion, has always been game changer, especially for anybody that was new to Clearpool or just coming into it now. They have different ways in which they mitigate risk. And at the end of the day, all this stuff is risk if you really think about it. But how much risk are you willing to take on, and especially if you're choosing to invest in something like Clearpool? They have counterparty risk that they mentioned, inherent challenge in uncollateralized lending. Clearpool addresses this concern with a comprehensive risk management framework. And there's a few of them, right? Rigorous whitelisting, I won't get into all that. Real-time risk assessments, I will get into this. Clearpool partners with Credora. It's a leading Web3 credit rating agency to provide real-time risk assessments, enabling informed decision-making for lenders. So at the end of the day, Clearpool even has that connection to when it comes to like credit ratings. As you know, me, I used to be a loan officer from 2005 to 2007. And one of the key things that we always had to do was we had to obviously gather a credit rating for, a person that wants to, for instance, buy a new home or refinance or do a HELOC, you name it, right? But we went to Equifax, we went to TransUnion, and then there was another particular one, right? Experian, excuse me. And then the three have an average to give you a mid score for your what they call your FICO score. But that's Web 2, if you think about it. What about entering Web 3? Again, Clearpool stands at the forefront of this, and I don't see a lot of other platforms doing something like this. So again, I want to introduce this to you. They have this innovative insurance mechanism also. Clearpool has an innovative insurance mechanism designed to provide extra protection in case of borrower defaults. So they prepare for those oh crap moments. Each borrower pool even has its own dedicated insurance account. That's cool. To fund this insurance, Clearpool has implemented a dynamic approach where on every block, a governance-approved percentage of the pool's interest is channeled into the insurance account. Now, they have this thing ahead of about the roadmap. I'm not going to get into all that. But one thing I do want to talk about is, because some people like, flooding Clearpool, hey, it's built on Ethereum and so on. Keep in mind, they have done a few things, and that is they went to new chains and new borrow pools. Think about this for a second. Clearpool has successfully expanded into Optimism. We've done the whole thing about JASMY with Optimism for that layer 2. So just like with JASMY, they went with a leading layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum, right? A roll-up, launching 3 borrower pools there. This expansion opens up new opportunities, of course, for Clearpool to tap into a, growing ecosystem of users and projects, of course, on Optimism. To further incentivize participation and growth on Optimism, Clearpool has secured, listen to this, a $150K OP grant. This grant will be used to bootstrap the OP borrower pools and reward lenders, fostering a thriving community on, of course, Optimism's network. They've done the whole thing with governance for quite some time. You can look more into this. There's a lot of good stuff here. But I want to jump down to this bottom part real quick. And that is, in regards to RWA ecosystem. Sorry about the clearing of the throat song. So earlier, we've been talking all night long on the whole topic of real world assets. If anything, I should have probably titled the show, hey guys, let's talk about real world assets, because we gave you so many examples tonight, especially when it comes to Nexera. We talked about, for instance, other examples, Quant, you name it. So a lot of talk about RWA, but even Clearpool is part of this mix. And look at this for a second. Clearpool's thoughts on the current state of RWA ecosystem and how they think it will evolve in the next few years. This is great perspective. I thought I would share it with you guys for a second. So they state the current RWA ecosystem is grappling with the absence of industry-wide standards, hurdles, hinders broader adoption. Yes, particularly among the traditional financial institutions. To overcome this challenge, they have a robust regulatory framework that must emerge, and one that recognizes the unique characteristics and advantages of RWAs while safeguarding the integrity of course, just that, the financial system. This regulatory landscape should not be viewed as a hindrance, but rather as an opportunity to catalyze the maturation of the decentralized finance DeFi landscape. They realize that technology would advance. They realize there's going to be a new regulatory framework. But in the same light, they understand that in order to create a sustainable framework, you have to be able to seamlessly integrate DeFi into the mix through the integration of RWAs into the broader financial system, stimulating institutional adoption, because some of you guys are talking about, like, how do we get to this mass adoption? And for one, including DeFi and unlocking the full potential of blockchain tech. Tokenization of real-world assets immenses lots of promise, lots of things. They're going to offer fractional ownership, increased liquidity, broader accessibility to traditional illiquid assets. This expansion will likely encompass a wider range of asset classes, opening up a new investment opportunity for participants in the RWA ecosystem. And again, it's not a focus just on, lending, for instance. It's also recognizing that they got this whole thing in regards to RWAs and how we will see the huge, expansion or growth of RWAs by watching the ecosystem mature. And over the next few years, like they mentioned, they anticipate an increased institutional adoption of RWAs as traditional financial institutions recognize the potential benefits of diversifying, of course, their portfolios through exposure to these alternative investment assets. But what about having a unique particular platform to get it done? Look at this. RWA ecosystem stands for the precipice of a transformative era, one defined by innovation, regulatory clarity, widespread adoption. By navigating the uncharted waters of this evolving landscape, they, as in Clearpool, can unlock a future where traditional and decentralized finance intertwine, shaping a more inclusive, efficient, and transparent financial system. Now, I want to state this. I got into this long before I got into Nexera, but I always recognized this whole thing of, this bridge from traditional finance to DeFi. This is another great example of what stands out, in my opinion, when it comes to Clearpool. Now, in conclusion, what I want to state for you in regards to like everything that's recently happened, specifically, also with Clearpool, right? So basically it's like this. And of course, this is a little bit from my notes and so on. So, there's a lot too when it comes to Clearpool. And I would, again, always recommend everybody doing more of their own research. But bottom line is this. People want to know, like, well, what's the basic significance of Clearpool? I'm not, aware of it like you are, Max. And if anything, that's okay. Like we as a community, we do a lot of our own research together. But you got to keep in mind, Clearpool is a decentralized credit marketplace. Now, I've talked you guys' ears off when it comes to JASMY being a decentralized data marketplace. Clearpool, again, decentralized credit marketplace. The tokenization of DeFi lending, capital markets ecosystem. They, as in Clearpool, allow institutional borrowers to access capital from a global network of lenders. I myself, as a former, um, excuse me, a former loan officer many years ago, had to deal with many different lenders that had different types of criteria, right? And also based on a particular borrower's credit scores and so on. I mean, some people had excellent credit, some people had good credit but not great. And of course that affected all sorts of things where they got approved for a refi or they got approved for a HELOC, you name it, right? And of course, the higher the higher FICO score or mid score they had on their FICO score, the more of interest rate, the lower their interest rate people get approved for. You know how it goes, especially you guys who bought homes and so on. But you have to keep in mind when it comes to Clearpool, its utility and governance token, which is Cpool, CPOOL, powers just that, the Clearpool ecosystem. Clearpool is significant because it provides a solution to the problem of institutional borrowers. Again, what makes this thing unique? Well, it enables them to access capital from traditional lenders, for instance, or for people that were not able to, I should say. This is because traditional lenders, for instance, are often reluctant to lend to institutional borrowers, true, who are involved in the cryptocurrency and decentralized finance DeFi space. Very, very true. Clearpool, listen to this before we wrap it up. Cpool itself allows institutional borrowers to access capital from a global network of lenders. Like I said, a capital markets ecosystem, regardless of the credit history or industry affiliation. And that right there should be your key takeaway of why you should even look into this. In addition, Clearpool, which is a governance token, allows holders to vote. And you guys seen this with many other projects who are looking, I should say, I got to get back into my. So sorry. Clearpool is a governance token that allows holders to vote on important decisions that, of course, affect the future of the Clearpool ecosystem. So you do have a say on what happens, right? It's not like it's a dictatorship, if you will. This includes, for instance, decisions on how to allocate funds, which, of course, help feature to develop in how to set interest rates. Now, back to the whole thing about Clearpool is a valuable asset for institutional borrowers. Think about this for a second. It does all this because people from these particular sectors are looking for a secure and efficient way to access and provide just that, capital. Yes, hence why when you go to the Clearpool mainnet, you'll see a list of all sorts of different examples of different VCs and so on and how much they're borrowing. Is also a valuable asset for investors who are looking to gain exposure to the growing DeFi space. I don't know why you guys are into all sorts of different DeFi plays, but take more of a look into this one. You don't see many people covering it, but if anything, we're always trying to find gems and so on. This is one I've DCA'd into probably like 8 or 10 times. Now, there's 3 key areas I want to talk about before we wrap it up, and that is the benefits of using the Cpool token. Institutional borrowers, for one, can, for instance, use Clearpool to provide institutional borrowers with access to a global network of lenders, like I mentioned before, regardless of the credit history or industry affiliation. Because sometimes in the past, we've seen things where, well, you can't be in this industry. It's a conflict of interest, right? You ever heard that expression? Right. But this is going to help them secure the capital they need to grow their own business. And of course, you've seen, if you go to the mainnet of Clearpool, you'll see numerous examples of those particular borrowers. Now, what about lenders? Clearpool provides lenders with a secure and efficient way to earn returns on their investments. How cool is that? They can also earn additional rewards by staking, of course, Cpool tokens. I remember back in the day staking on KuCoin and getting over 100% APR. Those days are long gone, but you can still stake on Clearpool's mainnet. I don't know exactly the particular APR, but I know the longer you commit, like for example, a year and so on, it used to be a while back that you could get like 25%. So there's still attractive staking on their mainnet. I just don't know what it currently is. However, The third thing I want to get into, investors. Got to address this real quick. Clearpool Cpool is a valuable asset, of course, for investors who are looking to gain exposure to the growing DeFi space. Very true. It is a volatile asset, but it has the potential to generate high returns. And this is what also makes me still want to talk about Clearpool, even though I haven't talked about it in a while. And that is, if they were able to go from 40 cents roughly on their launch in 2.5 weeks at the height of the last bull market and go to $2.47 roughly in that particular time. And that was during the time of testnet, before their mainnet. They're well past mainnet. They've gone to, like the examples we've given you in regards to optimism. They've done the whole thing with Polygon. So they already have set themselves to be prepared more than most for the upcoming bull market. For me, it's not financial advice, but I want to state that for me, Clearpool could very easily be 100x from where it's currently sitting right now, which is right around the 2 cent range, give or take. In conclusion, Clearpool, as in Cpool, is a significant innovation, of course, in the DeFi space for many different reasons. Look more into it for yourself, but it has the potential to revolutionize the way that institutional borrowers and lenders do just that, and that is access capital. So that said, hopefully you enjoyed this Cpool coverage that we have tonight. Let's try to cover Cpool